To load your trial balance, we're going to use a tool called Financial Data Quality Management, or FDM for short. This is a Hyperion tool that allows you to easily load your trial balance to HFM. There are a few things that need to be said about the trial balance prior to loading. First, you have to use the same file format each month. The way FDM processes the file is that it looks at certain fields and processes them in a certain order. And if that changes from month to month, that will confuse FDM and it won't know where to put things. You have to use this format because the project team has tested and loaded this data using the file format that you provided some weeks or months ago. A second element is a mapping table. The consolidations and FRC team have mapped your local GL to that of the chart of accounts in HFM. They've done the initial mapping. You'll need to maintain this mapping file, and that's something that we'll go over in this chapter. Finally, if your TB is in an Excel format, you're going to have to save it as a CSV prior to loading to FDM. To log into FDM, there are a couple ways of doing this. One is to type the address directly into the address bar, and the second way is to use your default task list and click on the FDM logon link in HFM. A pop-up window will ask you if you want to launch this link. When you click OK, you'll see a new window open and a logon screen to FDM. And again, you use the same logon that you use for your Windows Active Directory. In FDM, the layout is a little bit different. You can see the POV is at the bottom of your screen now. In our case, our trainer has access to Lodestar. We're looking at January 2013, and we are loading to the actual scenario. Now, if we want to change this, we simply click on it, and as you can see, you're kind of locked into the location that you have access to. But we can change our period. Our category is our scenario. For now, we want to leave it on actual, and we click OK. The first step in importing your trial balance is going up to Import. You click here to import. From here, you have a few options. You can upload a file or select a file from an inbox. So what we're going to do is we are going to load our trial balance. We want to select a file. This is the inbox in which we load all of our trial balance data. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of different files here that have already been loaded. This is where you'll see prior months CSV files as well as current month's CSV files. If you don't see your file here, you click on Browse, and as you can see, it opens up your windows and you can browse to where your file is and click Open. We've already loaded trial balance once for January. So I'm going to select my file from the inbox and click OK. Now what FDM is doing, it's using the import format along with the file format that you've provided in your CSV, and it's loading it into FDM. You can see that our import was successful in our information bar. If we close that, we get the import goldfish. If we scroll down our data, you can see that our entity is Lodestar. You can see all of the different accounts that have been loaded, the account descriptions, as well as, if we scroll to the right, the amounts. The second step is validate. This is where FDM maps all of the source accounts to HFM accounts. So again, you get the hand and you click there. And as you can see now, you've got the validate goldfish. Our entity is now an HFM entity. Our account is now an HFM account. And we've got the rest of the dimensions defaulting. And you can see the amounts in the last column. Now, if you're curious as to finding out what balances are going into this account, you can click on the amount. FDM will pop a window and you'll be able to see how many accounts make up that balance. And if we maximize this, we can see that these source accounts here all go into the one account 10010. Once we have these two goldfish, the final step is to export it to HFM. We click on export. It will give us a couple of different options. You can replace, merge, accumulate, or replace by security. We always want to replace. And we've got a load and scan operation. Load actually loads the data. Scan will simulate the load but won't actually load the data. I'm going to select scan for the training, but you will select load. I click OK. And if all goes well, I will receive my third and final goldfish. Now I know that my data has been loaded to HFM successfully. Now a common error is during the validate stage. If you get a validation error, this means that your mapping has not been updated. So when we click on validate, you'll get a screen similar to this one where you'll see a gray fish. You'll see the data that's been mapped, and then up top you'll see the dimension, in this case it's account, and the source value that FDM doesn't know where it should go. So to fix this, we select the row and we click Fix. FDM will present a pop-up window where you will see the mapping files. Because it's account, it will be the first map that we see. You can see that we've got an account and an explicit account. So we can map this account directly to the account by typing it in. Or if we don't know which account it should go to, we can click on this little arrow and select Browse for Target Value. What this does is go into HFM and presents you with a list of all of the accounts in HFM. So we know it's a land asset. We click on it. We click OK, and now we must decide if we need to flip the sign. In this fourth column you can see that there are tick boxes, and we can either leave them ticked or unticked. The way data is loaded into HFM is that all assets and all liabilities are loaded as positive numbers. On the P&L side, all expenses and revenues are loaded as positive numbers. Now, if you've got a contra account, for example, bad debt allowance, that is a contra asset. So that would be loaded as a negative. Because this is an asset in your system, and it goes to an asset in HFM, we don't need to flip the sign. A good reference point is to look at other accounts similar to the ones that you've mapped and use that as a guide. Once you've decided, you can see that this little icon here shows that the grid has not been updated. So we need to update the grid. Now once we've done that, our mapping tables have been updated. You can see that our row has been added successfully. We can now close that window. So now what we can do is revalidate just by clicking on the gray fish. And this time, because we've added that account to the mapping file, FDM knows where it should go. And if we scroll down to find the account 11010 and go over to the amount and drill down into the source values, this will show us that our freehold lands was successfully mapped to that account.